Get it.
I want to thank you, Remzo. I want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. And of course, we're joined tonight by America's lawyer. And when I say that, a lot of people don't know this, but Larry Klayman was Jerome Corsi's lawyer, the only person not indicted by Robert Mueller. He represents Cliven Bundy, who, America went, the United States government went after for his grazing rights. He defends everybody, and he runs Freedom Watch. He started Judicial Watch, but give to Freedom Watch, not Judicial Watch.
And he and I sued Mr. Newsom, the lavishly dining out Mr. Newsom, biggest hypocrite in California, which is really big. He and I sued him because he was preventing people from having the freedom to worship, which is guaranteed, of course, by the Constitution. But I wonder if Governor Newsom even is conscious that there is a Constitution.
It's likely to be recalled at this point, Ben. There's a big movement going on.
That would be wonderful, except there is a Sacramento swamp too, and whoever wins will be sucked into that swamp too. The swamp has a special, very powerful magnetism that is extremely hard to resist.
That's right.
So then, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you both a question. Larry, hold on. Let me ask you both a question. Both of you have been in Washington for quite a long time. Ben, this must be like the worst case of deja vu a person could have in their life. Now, Remzo was a little younger, a lot younger. I'm a little younger. Is there hope?
Is there hope for? Well, let me back up. Well, why don't you answer first, Remzo? I've been hogging the spotlight.
No. I'm asking, but Ben, no.
I'm getting ready to run away to Mexico or something like that.
Well, day by day, my life is great. I have an incredibly wonderful wife. I have an incredibly wonderful, gorgeous friend who keeps me company from the Far East. A wonderful, 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 wonderful set of smart friends I interact with by phone or online, or in case of Judah, in person. My life is incredibly great, but how long will it last? I don't know. I mean, I've already been blackballed pretty much from Hollywood because of my pro-God stance, and I can't live. I'm not a rich person, although everyone thinks I am. I'm not, and I can't live forever. Well, I guess I'll die before I run out of money. But my life right now is great. But in terms of the freedom in this country for my granddaughter, Coco, she's not going to have it. It's gone.
So, Larry, but my question about it was, Larry, how do we is there any way out of this swamp? I
wrote this book, Judah, it takes a revolution, forget the scandal industry. The idea is turn off Sean Hannity, stop being entertained by scandals that go nowhere. Get up off the couch, put the wine and beer down and popcorn, and get to work. And we need to do things like citizens' grand juries, which are legal, to hold the guilty accountable. Our founding fathers, and I talk about this in the book, It Takes a Revolution, which you get at Amazon. I'm plugging it a little bit. I want people to read it. And remember, Ben endorsed it along with others.
I love it. Larry, I think you're a genius.
Well, I do. I think you're a genius too. You're my good friend, and I'm very proud to have you and Judah and now Remzo as a friend. But the reality is that we have to help ourselves. God helps those that help themselves. As much as we love Donald Trump, he did a lot of good things for his country. His time has come and it's passed. They'll never let him come back. They'll destroy him first. We need to do it ourselves. And it was Scalia. And we talked about this, Ben, back in 1992 in a case United States versus Williams, where he said the grand jury belongs to the American people, not to the three branches of government. We need to go back to the days of Wyatt Earp, when we enforce the law of nature, and nature is God. That's in the first line of the Declaration of Independence. And maybe we have to start thinking about declaring independence ourselves, because the three branches of government are so corrupt, endemically corrupt, and the most corrupt is the federal judiciary. And there's a chapter in my book, figuratively speaking, it says first to the guillotines, because they've abandoned the American people. We don't have protectors anymore. Now they have stabbed the president of the United States in the back. It was his own judges that he appointed at the lower court level and at the Supreme Court level that turned on him. And
you see, but here's my thing, and I want to get to Ben, and because I agree with you, but I want to get to Ben and Remzo on this. Everybody keeps on referring to that they stabbed the president. They stabbed the American people in the back.
yes, that's what I meant.
Right, but Ben or Remzo, how do you feel about this? Just the fact that our voices can't be heard. I mean, you look into the future and you say, what do we have to do? And you're a libertarian, Remzo, but I'm saying, how do we get anything done?
I mean, we've got to just get to the point where, you know, the idea that it's just going to be one party versus another, that this is just partisan politics all the time, it's just such a false dichotomy. This is about status versus you. This is about people that want to keep things the way they are. And you know, I used to really, you know, look down on the idea of an Article 5 convention. I'm starting to think that convention of the states might be the only thing left. We have to go ahead and, you know, tackle that. We need term limits, because you know, what we see is that it's not just, you know, limiting the ability for career politicians to do bad. It's also limiting the dangers of democracy. That's one reason why I think we also need to look at abolishing the 17th Amendment. The direct election of senators is one of the worst things that ever happened to the republic. So we need to stop looking at, you know, just the whole game of Republicans versus Democrats. It's a giant system. And as you know, I think it was Bill Hicks, he once said, you know, it's a big club and you just ain't in it.
Ben, can you respond to that?
I think the problem is human nature. I mean, I look at the French Revolution. In the French Revolution, the aristocrats went to the tumbrils and to the guillotine in large numbers. The previous government was largely killed. And then within a short time, they were back and they were running things again. Similarly, in Russia, in Russia and in China and in some other countries that were and Nazi Germany that were thoroughly despotic, there was a complete change in leadership. But in all the countries in which there was a democracy, whenever there's been a big change, it always reverts to the same people. I keep quoting this song by The Who, a group that Larry and I will remember, maybe the others are too young, and where they're called Won't Get Fooled Again, where there's this line that I think is extremely apropos. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And that is exactly our situation. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. The new boss, whoever the new boss is going to be part of the Washington establishment. You mentioned that the new Secretary of Defense is, everyone said, oh, revolutionary, he's a black man. Ooh, revolutionary, he's a black man. Ooh, revolutionary, he's a black man. Yeah, he's a black man who, as you said, is a director of Lockheed Martin, the biggest second or third biggest defense contractor in America. Another gigantic cabinet pick just recently, another African-American person was director of Raytheon, another one of the top 3 defense contractors. That's how it works. They're all sucked into this Washington power magnet situation, and that's how it works. That's how the aristocracy works.
Well, you know, Ben, it was John Adams who said 3 days before signing the Declaration of Independence, doesn't matter how many times you change your rulers or your forms of government, without ethics, morality, and liberty, you will not have lasting freedom.
But human beings are by nature not such hot ethical beings. I have a sister who's I'm sorry to say, an extremely left-wing Democrat, a wonderful sister. She's been a very, very good sister to me. But as she so aptly said to me many years ago, your basic human is not such a hot item. And that, unfortunately, is true even when those humans are fed into the government system. They're going to be greedy. They're going to be venal. They're going to want to be members of the club. And that's the way it works. And now only if you take them out and shoot them will you have a big change, and then you'll have despots and killers instead.
And I've been trying to tell Judah, this is the reason we now have extraterrestrials here in the United States. They're concerned about us, but he's not willing to accept that until he gets 10 rabbis to certify it in New York City. Worried about us.
Coming back, Larry. Keep coming back, my friend.
Here's Larry, as opposed to me, believes in certain things. My joke to him is when 10 rabbis, but the thing I won't joke about it, Larry, is that you have been so correct, but so has Ben for that matter. for conservatives and Republicans, both of you, and libertarians, and yes, Remzo eats meat. It doesn't mean a libertarian doesn't eat meat to the people on YouTube. We've been promised by the Hannitys of the world and by the Laura Ingrams and by many of these people every night for 3 years. They had people on their show promising, John Solomon, Sarah Carter, promising people were getting indicted tomorrow. And Ben, that's the hope you spoke of with Barr. You know, that we put hope in this person. He was the last vestige of hope we had. And he basically just, he was like, you know, Merry Christmas.
Well, he just
was the last
a very skillful salesman and con man. And I think the fact that he was kind of a large man and not particularly prepossessing in terms of his appearance had something to do with it. That made us, for some reason, think he was trustworthy. But, you know, again, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I lived in Washington on and off most of my life. I still have a home there, as you well know. And I see people coming and go. There's a famous line in the room. The women come and go and talk of Michelangelo. And I say, in Washington, the people come and go and talk of where the paychecks come from. And the paychecks don't come from dopes like me. They come from Raytheon, Lockheed, Martin Marriott. Is Martin Marriott a separate company anymore? I'm not sure it is. Anyway, they come from people with money and power. They don't come from people like me. And those people with money and power used to be conservatives. Now they're not. Now they're left-wingers. So the conservatives basically have nobody but the truck drivers, the people, and the Proud Boys. I was telling my dear friend Judah, I was in Washington, I guess it was Friday night, and coming back from a trip to the beautiful eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay. And suddenly we were going to a Trump hotel, and we were surrounded by police on motorcycles and motorbikes and huge mobs of people, very strong, muscular-looking people shouting obscenities about Biden and pro-Trump slogans and carrying Trump-Pence flags and American flags. And I think, although I'm not positive, it was the Proud Boys. And they love Trump. Trumpism is not going away anywhere, not by a long, long way. And Trumpism may change things, but it's not going to change the basic nature of the human being.
What say you, Larry Klayman?
Well, I think Ben is right, but
I thought you were going to say it's in your book.
Point where you can't take it anymore. And paraphrasing the beginning of the Declaration of Independence, in the course of human events, when the sovereign breaks away from the people have a God-given right under the laws of nature, and nature's God, to alter or abolish their form of government and to form a new government by and for the people. I'm paraphrasing, okay? Now, at this point, we have it worse than the founding fathers and the colonialists had in 1776. King George at least was not a socialist or a communist. He was at least not an atheist. These are the people who are in control of our country. And we do not have a federal judiciary that will protect us. We now see that 100% with regard to what happened with the Supreme Court. So even if these people are going to creep back into government, we can't give up. And we have to do something. You know, Charles de Gaulle, when the Nazis took over Vichy France, he started his own government on behalf of France, the real government of France, from London. You know,
it was better. Well, it was better than that, Counselor. He said he didn't say we've been defeated. He said we face a prolonged struggle, and I think we face a prolonged struggle. But the sad fact is, if I may say this, we face a prolonged struggle against human nature. My dear friend sitting to my left on the screen, Judah, and I belong to a 12-step group which believes basically that you can, with enough work, and alter human nature, at least to some small degree. And I think that is what's going to have to happen. I am Jewish. I think you are a Jewish Christian in some way that I don't quite understand. But anyway,
we're confused.
What we're looking for is a change in human nature that I think has to be brought about by some kind of commitment to a divinity, which beckons us, bids us, commands us to be less selfish and more giving and kind. And we happen to be celebrating the birthday of the founder of that sect, very, very, very large sect. And I think that's an accurate, apt time for reflection, and a horribly sad time for America, because as Christmas approaches, we are celebrating it by electing and inaugurating very soon a government which explicitly believes, as one of its core beliefs, that it is right, patriotic, wonderful, glorious, uplifting to kill your own children. So we've reached that sad state in American life.
And if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. Of course, we're joined tonight by amazing special guest, America's lawyer, in the interest of full disclosure, my lawyer, and Ben's suit lawyer against Gavin Newsom. But Remzo, if you could please tell people where they could find us.
Yes, go ahead and hit that bell icon in the top corner of the screen. That way you get notifications whenever we go live with another episode of The World According to Ben Stein. You can, of course, go ahead and follow the show at Ben Stein on Parler, at The World According to Ben Stein on Facebook. And please, those 5-star rating and reviews on iTunes help us go a long way. Share the show everywhere. Make sure people download and subscribe so that way they never miss an episode.
And
let me add something in here for discussion purposes, guys.
So let me welcome everybody back. I want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. And I want to just tell a quick story, Larry, about how we met, because it's important for this, and I will plug your book in this with it. Ben, we had lunch. You had known Ben first at the Beverly Hills Hotel. You offered to give us a few books at the hotel, but what Ben did and I myself didn't know, it was 6 books each of diaries, of essays of a madman. And then you showed us your next book, which was Whores, which was about all the people in Washington, not the literal ones. And then now you have a new book called It Takes a Revolution. You are one of the few people, I got to say, and Ben will totally agree with this, that walks the walk and talks the talk. You defend people that can't afford it. You go after people that deserve going after. And you have been, like Ben was expelled and really hurt after a movie that he made, which was brilliant, called Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. You were expelled from Washington.
Well, I wasn't expelled. I mean, I chose to leave. I don't want to live there anymore, but I have to go back there, unfortunately, like Ben does from time to time. But, the bottom line is this, is that we, the American people, have our fate in our own hands. God is with us if we help ourselves. And once these leftists take control of this government, this is another prediction, Judah. Biden won't live 6 months. Either he'll have a stroke, his last one, and die, or they'll give him something and he doesn't wake up. And then if you think the leftists are bad now, you can wait for them to flood into this so-called government. They will never relinquish power again. They will use the Justice Department, which they control. They'll use the IRS and every means to destroy anyone in their wake, including President Trump. And I think he knows that, and his family. He's been relatively restrained lately. And they're going to go after me. They're going to go after Ben. They'll go after everybody because they will never give it back again. So we are in a revolution right now.
But we're in a revolution where, unfortunately, we're in this stage of the revolution where the repressing party, it has almost all the weapons of control and levers of control in their hands. That's why it would be incredibly valuable if everyone watching tonight could give whatever he or she can to help the Republicans in Georgia. Obviously, the present Republican Party is far from ideal, but obviously it's incomparably better than the alternative. So let's do what we can tonight to help the Republicans in Georgia.
And Remzo, make another prediction, Ben, very controversial. And I do believe it to be true, is that there's already 1.5 million paper ballots in the mail in Georgia.
Yeah, they've stolen it already.
They've stolen it already. And if by any chance, if by the grace of God, the Republicans retain Georgia, with 1 senator or 2 senators, I predict that in a Democrat state with a Democratic governor, 1 or 2 senators will turn up dead. And then they'll appoint a Democrat senator. And then all this leftist legislation will be rammed through. We will be formally in a socialist/communist country, and they won't give up that power again. And if the Supreme Court should come to life, you probably saw the movie The Pelican Brief, John Grisham, a relative of Bill Clinton, believe it or not. Supreme Court justices, and I believe they did fear for their life, and that was one reason they didn't rule in favor of Texas, is that a couple of them will go too. I don't believe that Scalia died by accident. I really don't. And
yeah, I totally agree with that. The judges are vulnerable human beings. They have hopes and fears just like everyone else, and they don't want to see their children growing up without a father or a mother.
But Ben, I got to be honest with you. Of all the years I've known you, and the way you speak now is not always the way you spoke. You had a little more faith in the Republican Party. You had a little more faith in humanity in many ways. And a lot of this has taken its toll on how you look at Washington. You were the last.
It has. Well, I saw incredible misconduct against Richard Nixon. A genuinely great man. I saw incredible misconduct by the government and the press and media towards him. Incredible, unbelievable misconduct. I saw the same thing happening against Trump. One manufactured slander and libel against him after another. And then I think the election, it seemed so clear on election night that he had won. And then I must give credit where due. My dear friend Judah wrote me very late that night, the fix is in, Trump is not going to win. And he was totally right. And the fact that the courts, the great courts of America, refused to even look at this thing. Look, you can bring the most outrageously trivial bullshit case to the courts, and at least some court will give you validity. Larry and I went to law school. We know this. The most ridiculous cases can be brought before courts, and at least some judge will take a look at it. For none of them to take a look at it, absolutely none of them in the whole country to take a look at an issue as big as this, that makes no statistical, historical, or jurisprudential sense unless there is some kind of conspiracy.
Well, it was not just Obama and Clinton judges. It was not just the Supreme Court. No. It was judges that Trump himself had appointed. You remember the film Back to School by Rodney Dangerfield? When he gives the valedictorian speech to his class and he says, look out for number one and don't step in number two. They're looking out for number one. They're looking out for number one.
Right. Well, that's the nature of human beings. And it's heart rendering, as my wife would say. But that is the way the world works. And I don't know what the situation is. We had a better country a long time ago. But then again, let's be fair. Thomas Jefferson, one of the greatest men who ever lived on this earth, had hundreds of human beings as slaves, and he could choose to command slave women or slave girls to come to his bed and have sex with him. He owned them. He could do anything he wanted with them. That's an outrage against decency and against God himself. So even the greatest of the great could do things like that. So we don't see the human being as a deeply, deeply flawed vessel. I think we have to really reach into ourselves and into the surroundings, whatever godliness is offered around us, grab onto that for dear life. I happen to be married to a very saintly woman, and so that's incredibly much easier for me than I think than it is for most people.
Remzo.
I think Kelly Loeffler should be in prison, not in the Senate.
Why? Tell
insider trading. Her and her husband went ahead and dumped a whole bunch of stock as soon as they were briefed back in March. Everything was going to look at basically the fact that they had violated insider trading laws, and then they just got away with it. So I mean, this is just another example of somebody who just is in politics for their own personal gain. I absolutely think she should have gone to court, and she should be in prison. She shouldn't be in the Senate.
With the greatest respect, Remzo, my friend, who is her opponent, please?
I don't even know.
His name is Warnock.
He's the one who's a violent.
Yeah, he's the anti-Semite.
Anti-Semite.
So Remzo, that's what we're saying.
Anti-Semite certified moron.
Right. We have to.
Louis Farrakhan in clerical robes.
Remzo, sometimes you have to juggle, and I understand what you're saying about her. She's not the perfect. Nancy Pelosi, actually, there was a law created in Congress.
So we have to choose between the anti-Semite and the woman who went ahead and profited off of one of the worst economic downturns that we've had in the past 4 years.
Throw a little more humor in, guys.
I'll take the financial crook against the versus the
Since we all love Hollywood, quote unquote.
Not put the Jews in gas chambers.
You remember the movie Zelig, where Woody Allen became a chameleon, and they asked him, "How did you become a chameleon?" And he said, "The problem was my next door neighbors were anti-Semites." He said, "But what was worse is that my parents sided with the anti-Semites." Right. I mean, that's what we've got in society today. There's no sense of right and wrong.
Remzo, you're right.
And Ben is right.
Ben, you're going exactly what Ben was saying. So we're not jabbing at you. The new boss is the same as the old boss. We're hedging our bets or whatever that for the Senate's sake.
I mean, I'm all into controlled brush fires. If we have to let a Democrat win to get rid of a bad Republican, then we can just have a better Republican go in and beat the Democrat. That's the beautiful thing about elections, and that's why, as much as I, it might be pessimistic and jaded about our current state. I mean, let's look at America. We survived Woodrow Wilson and FDR and a whole slew of other people. The beautiful thing about us is that with our system of federalism, we're so fractured and we have so much power broken down within different levels. It's hard for any one person or one party to screw things up as irreversibly as everyone else.
Remzo, the difference is that the quality of an education in the average American was much better during the days of Franklin Roosevelt, Richard Nixon, and others. Now, these kids are uneducated, they're brainwashed. Even the Jewish kids going to university are turned into anti-Semites against themselves.
Standard, that's basically standard for Jews to be turned into anti-Semites in university. Standard.
Yeah, I went to Duke University. I used to be proud of that. I mean, Duke has become the Berkeley of the South. They had a course that was being paid for with federal money. Fortunately, Betsy DeFoss ended it, pulled the funding. Duke in North Carolina, teaching that Judaism and Christianity were inferior to Islam. Can you believe that? Unbelievable.
Wow.
I believe it. I totally believe it. I totally believe it.
Here's the thing. Larry has to run in a few seconds. So I just want to
Where are you going, Larry?
I committed to do a radio interview before Judah asked me to come on. I would prefer to stay with you guys, but I have to meet my commitments.
So I want to.
I'll miss you, my friend.
So I just want to
tell everybody. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Go to Amazon, get Larry's book. It Takes a Revolution. Look up Larry. If you ever feel bad, and I mean this, if you ever feel bad about your online profile, just wiki Larry. Okay. If you ever think you've been crapped on, just wiki Larry. But he is America's lawyer. He is a good friend. He is. Please go buy his book and donate to Freedom Watch. I just
last thought. Justice Thomas, who stood for the American people in the last few days, Judah, quickly. I remember sitting at an event with him, and he got up. This was after he was destroyed, over Anita Hill, and he said to the crowd, he said, if you're going to accomplish something in Washington, D.C., be prepared to get cut. Don't be afraid.
And I just want
to say that again, Larry. Who said that?
If you're going to accomplish something.
Who said that?
Clarence Thomas, right?
Justice Clarence Thomas.
And I just want to say this, that
the greatest justice, is my opinion, who's currently on the court. The rest are a bunch of clowns.
Everybody out there that's been fooled by Judicial Watch in many ways and has donated their money, Tom Fenton is not a lawyer. Freedom Watch, Larry Klayman is. So Larry actually goes and does these fights, okay? He does the same thing, so he's an important cause. Defending Clive and Bundy for the grazing rights was so impactful and important, and you won the case, Larry.
Thank you. I got to run, guys, but God bless you.
God bless you, Larry.
You
and Larry, we'll see you soon. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. We're a few regular lists and who will be back. But Remzo, can you please tell people where they can find us?
Yeah, please. If you just tuned in recently, make sure you go ahead and hit that bell icon so you get a notification each time there's a new episode of the show. Don't forget, you can also go ahead and follow us on Parler at Ben Stein. That's at Ben Stein on Parler. At The World According to Ben Stein on Facebook. And please, leave us a 5-star review, an honest rating over at iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. You know how the internet works. Those 5-star rating and reviews help the show grow and go faster each and every day.
And I want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. I'm sorry I can't get into the chat and respond, but I am reading your fun things that are going on in there, and we really appreciate and thank you for watching us live. It means the world to us, and we really want to thank you. But I want to get back to something, Ben, you were discussing, which is you're not calling it this, but you basically have described intersectionality, right? I mean, that's
a
right.
horrible concept, which basically is a roundabout way of saying it's always the Jews' fault.
But it's also a way of saying that that there's a hierarchy of who is owed more and who deserves more, right? So if you're, Black and you're a lesbian, you're higher on the intersectionality scale. So this is basically what you were referring to before with the vaccine of who got the first shot.
Well, I think that was our friend, the counselor, who just left us, who was talking about that. But that is a real problem. And I see that right now. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I was just called just before we went on the air, just moments before, by a close friend from Yale days who was saying that his granddaughter was just turned down from a prestige college in California. And he is a big liberal. Said it's clear as a bell that she was turned down because she is from a middle-class Jewish family. And if she were Black, if she were Muslim, she's in, no question about it. No. Middle class, Jewish, forget it. No, goes to the bottom, back of the line, goes to the back of the bus. That's exactly the opposite of what we were fighting for. Look, I'm the oldest person here on the screen. We fought for equality despite race. We fought for equality despite ethnicity. Instead, what we've gotten is a hierarchy, as you say, a hierarchy in which the more Black you are, the more lesbian you are, the more trans you are, the higher you are on the scale of privilege. That's exactly the opposite of what this country is supposed to be about. This country has been turned upside down by the fake cause of systemic racism, a totally fraudulent cause.
What say you, Remzo?
I think it's always been leading this way. I think it's something that goes back to the progressive labor movement in the earliest 20th century. But I look at what really is the distorted narrative, and I don't talk about it a lot, but I don't have the most positive outlook on the civil rights movement from the 60s. I believe that there was a lot of good that came out of it, but there's a lot of distortions of the truth that have been used in a modern narrative through American social studies and other stuff like that. For example, when you look at Mario Savio, who led the free speech movement and the anti-war in Vietnam movement at Berkeley, we're taught that was, just this great, amazing thing that was great for free speech on college campuses. But the thing is that they stormed the administration building and they went ahead and caused massive damage and they threatened people. We don't talk about that. And when you look at Mario Savio's child today, his son is actually pushing to go ahead and have people blacklisted from college campuses to speak. It was never about free speech. It was never about being anti-war. It was being for certain free speech and being against some person's war. What they do is they selectively go ahead and curate what stuff they want to go ahead and champion, but it's always for themselves. It's never for the other.
But that's human life. But I remember very well walking along Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley when the free speech movement was going on. It was quite clear that the real purpose of it was, 1, to get high, 2, to have sex, all good goals to be sure. But there's no, but they weren't really interested in helping anyone but themselves. I mean, I know about that. I was in those movements. I'm old enough to remember it. We were about getting high, having a lot of fun, running around, and having sex. That was what it was about.
And Remzo, let me just say this, because it's something Ben was touching on before, and I speak for myself. I know Ben and I have had many conversations about this. One of the things that people forget about a book that Ben wrote, actually called Murder in Mississippi, right, Ben? Or the movie
I wrote an outline. It was an article, and then an outline, and then a script for a book about the murder of the great civil rights workers Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner in Mississippi, and right. I think it was 1964.
And it was 2 Jews, Remzo, and Ben and Ben and I often discuss this. The people that were really helped lead the civil rights movement were the Jews. And the ironic thing of who hates us, a big community of people out there that hate us more than anything, is the people we actually helped.
Well,
So,
we that's right. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible how this enmity between the African American people and the Jews has developed. But I will tell you again, since for the millionth time, I'm way, way older than either of you two. That was already starting at the beginning, at the very, very beginning. Even though the leaders of the civil rights movement were very left wing, they were not. They were very often anti-Semitic, even if they were Jewish themselves, even from the very beginning. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And lately, it's gotten really, really bad. And the idea that the Democrat Party would have a clear, violent anti-Semite as its senatorial campaign in Georgia, and that the president-elect of the United States would go down to Georgia and campaign for him is unbelievably horrible and absolutely clear-cut replication of National Socialism.
Remzo?
This is what we need to abolish the 17th Amendment.
I remember
All of this has to do with just more power.
Why don't you explain to people when you say that what you mean? Because people...
So the direct election of senators was something that was brought up in the 17th Amendment after the Civil War. It was to go ahead and give more Americans this idea that they should go ahead and have a say as to who goes to the Senate. But the problem with that is twofold. One, it went ahead and actually weakened our federalist structure because it allowed for a more democratized process, which means that now what you have is less people going and actually advocating for the rights and interests of the states. And now what they're doing is they're advocating for the rights and interests of certain subgroups and special groups of people. So now issues that should have been focused on the states and should have been focused on the issues of taxpayers from those states, it's all federal issues. This is why you have people donating and giving Beto O'Rourke hundreds of millions of dollars in 2018 in that 2008 Senate race in Texas. I also think we should go ahead and actually limit where people can donate. There's no reason why somebody in Virginia should be donating to a Texas Senate race. And there's no reason why somebody from California, like in Virginia, somebody in California should not be able to donate to a Northern Virginia congressional race. What we've done is we've weakened our federalist structure, and it was all under the guise of democratization, of more suffrage. But what it basically did was actually weakened more of the will of the states, more of the power of the states, and more of this fractured system that's actually supposed to go ahead and protect the taxpayer from federal overreach and things like that. So, I've been saying this constantly. The war is not between Democrats and Republicans. It's not liberal versus conservative. It's the system versus you. And until we actually begin to understand, I love it when people say, oh, I love the Constitution. The Constitution's so great. The Constitution's actually not that great. The Constitution past the Bill of Rights is not that good. Direct election of senators under the 17th Amendment is one. 14th Amendment is very vague.
Here, but I love
the income tax. When you say you love the Constitution, does that mean you love the federal income tax? I mean, the Bill of Rights is great. The rest of it, though, should have never been something that we went ahead and looked at past that. So that's where I'm at.
I disagree with you. Gladstone, the great English statesman, said the Constitution of the United States was the greatest document ever struck off at one time by the mind and purpose of man. And I think the Constitution was the greatest guiding document taking into account human nature for running a country that there has ever been. But the beauty of the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights, to be sure, is that until now, we were all allowed to discuss it and say how we felt about it. Now that's gone. I think something we haven't mentioned on this show tonight, which bears mentioning every day and every night and every moment, is that because of the big tech and the social media colossus, and the fact that big tech now controls free speech, or what used to be free speech, far more than the government ever did, that's a terrifying development. And we have seen just in the last few weeks, in the last few days almost, the end of free speech in America. I don't know how much longer this show is going to be on. I write a lot for the American Spectator. I don't know how long that's going to be on. I don't know how. I have a very close friend who often interviews me for a place that Judah tells me I should not be on, and I'm sure Judah's right about everything, namely Twitter. But how long am I going to be allowed to be on that? Probably almost not long at all. So I'm just horrified about what the future holds in terms of freedom. By the way, the Constitution explicitly allows slavery too. So, and the Constitution did not bar states from seceding from the Union. So that was all a scam run by the greatest president of all time, Abraham Lincoln. So, I mean, there's been a lot of misconduct.
And by the way, just so everybody to understand out there that's listening and commenting, one of my favorite things about doing a show like this, especially with somebody like Ben Stein, is that we can ask and we can question and we could disagree, and afterwards we all still like each other,
love each other.
And that's what I love about why I love going to Remzo and hearing from Remzo, because I know his ideas are going to be different. You know, a couple weeks ago when he said that he didn't believe that we should have presidents, I sent him the White Lion song, When the Children Cry, where there's a line in it, no more presidents and all the wars would end. One united world under God. And I was just putzing around and sending him the song because I was intrigued by what he was saying. And it was funny. It was funny. And it's a very hacky 80s song by a band named White Lion. And that's one of the things I learned from Ben, from being with him for so many years, obviously in the non-being with him sort of way, is that he was always okay with me asking him questions and disagreeing with him. And that's the best way to learn. And I really think, Ben, go
ahead.
No, I
was going to say that was in the days when Bob's Big Boy was open and we could get something to eat while we were talking.
Yes, and it's also the days of, that's what we're missing, Remzo, and that's what we're missing, Ben, is that people can't have a discussion anymore without retreating to camps. We have lost zero ability to discuss, and that breaks my heart, Ben, more than anything that's going on right now.
Yes. You and I have the ability to discuss because we live nearby. We can communicate in person whenever we want. You're over at my house frequently, never frequently enough. We can communicate. If Remzo, I'm sorry, Remzo, that you and I didn't get together when I was in Washington last week. I would have loved to have seen you. I'll be coming back
anytime.
What, sir?
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, I'll be coming back there soon, sir, to my little home there, and would love to get together with you. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Platonic.
And we should go down and see Mount Vernon. I went down to Mount Vernon and watched the sunset over the Potomac, and I thought to myself, this is a beautiful country. This is a beautiful country inside and out. Please, dear God, let's enjoy it a lot longer. Let's not have the Bolsheviks in high tech and wherever else they're in power take away our America from us.
You couldn't have said it better. Remzo, can you please tell people where they could find us?
Well, please go ahead one more time. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the show. YouTube makes it harder for shows to get discovered, and they're not often giving you those notifications. So please hit the bell icon so you never miss us when we go live. So that way you can interact with Judah, Ben, and our other awesome friends and panelists. You can go ahead and follow us on Parler at Ben Stein, on Facebook at The World According to Ben Stein, and please leave an honest 5-star rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. You know how the internet works.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to The World According to Ben Stein. We are starting to upload shows to Rumble. Now, I want to tell everybody out there that has this misconception about Rumble that thinks they generate, and Remzo could attest to this, through YouTube. So they are not they are also intertwined with YouTube. And so at the end of the day, as Ben said at the beginning, I think it's the most brilliant point, which was the who's point, which is the new boss is always the same as the old boss. Ben, it's hard to escape this stuff.
It's very hard to escape, except in our own world here and in the world of our family who are watching us and interacting with us online, and who we run into. I ran into some people at a gas station, a very humble gas station right next to Bay Bridge in Maryland, just a couple of days ago. They were right on the team. They were on the Trump train, and we could interact, and the Gestapo was not there to take us away. So far, so good.
I want to thank everybody for listening to The World According to Ben Stein. And of course, let's thank America's humble servant, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. We will hopefully see you Thursday night at the same time. Have a great night and be safe, America. We will talk to you later. Thank you.
God bless you.